Are you in management or leadership role and struggling with creating more hours in the day and maximizing profits? You are not alone. My today's guest is a sought-after speaker, balance and relationship advisor. She also received an award of 101 Top Influencer in Philadelphia by NAACP. My name is Mohammed Bashir. I'm a founder of Entrepreneur Empowerment Club, empowering you to achieve excellence. I'm hanging out from Toronto, Canada. My guest name is Naketa R Thigpen. Welcome, Naketa.
Thank you, Bashir. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Naketa, what inspired you to do what you do today? Where were you? What happened?
My journey was long and not a straight line, as many people could probably relate to. My background is I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and all of my expertise has always been in trauma, relationship management, sex therapy, human behavior, all those things that make us tick, right? And I used a lot of my clinical skills in my practice when I first started my journey as an entrepreneur, but I wasn't really sure how to stand out amongst the noise. So I started to put myself in a box. And what I realized more than anything is that being a pretty brilliant person, and I say that unapologetically, is I recognized my brilliance, but I was very unbalanced. I didn't have the greatest time management skills. I didn't have the greatest way to handle my family. I have a husband. I have 2 children. This was 5 years ago when we started my journey. So of course they were 5 years younger and needed a lot more attention than they do now as teenagers. And I also didn't understand how to use the best of myself. So all of the pivots that I've taken over the last 5 years have really empowered me to break my own box and, quite frankly, shift my experience so I could balance what matters to me most. And that's how I got here, was failing forward, honestly.
What are 3 actionable steps someone who's watching right now can take it from you and implement in their life today?
That's a great question, too. You're full of great questions today, Bashir. Well, the first thing I would say is if you're an entrepreneur, you really need to understand what your core outcomes are, what are the value benefit that you're going to bring for your clients, whether it's a corporate client, an individual person. There's some people who focus on pets as the kind of end client, but obviously the human is who's paying for things. Just recognizing what the outcome is and being able to separate what tools you use from that. So a good example I would use, something that I know I struggled with as well, when you're so good at so many things, it's hard to sometimes say that I do this as my core outcome lane and all these other things that I'm really good at are just tools that I use, and knowing when to kind of defer or refer to someone else instead of trying to take on everything, because we do it when we're new to business, or if you're revamping or just trying to get your stride financially. You'll start to just take on everything. And someone will say, like, I don't do social media. I know social media. I'm quite good at it, quite frankly. I know social selling really well because I study under one of the top gurus for social selling, but I'm not a social selling expert. It's just a tool that I use to create the outcome to maximize potential and profit for my client to get the best results. So what I would say is understand what your core outcome is. If you are a person who's creating a digital media strategy for a company, if that's what your core outcome is to create that strategy for them in a digital sense, then you need to recognize that your tools may include social media tools such as Twitter or LinkedIn or Pinterest or whatever, but you may not necessarily be a social media manager. Maybe that aspect is something that you want to white label with another person or company underneath of your brand, or you just refer to one of your partners that's a social media expert instead of trying to take on every single social media job that comes. But that's not really what you want. You want to be able to create a full strategy for them. So I would say the very first thing is to understand what's your core outcome that you provide, that you can put money on it and say, I guarantee that you will have this core outcome, versus just some of the tools that you use, and being really clear about what your lane is with that. That would be number one.
So I would say identifying your core values you offer to your clients. So I'm hungry to know what's the next thing you are going to share about with our audience today.
In layman's terms, I say organize your day, but to make it a little bit more specific for some of us who are managing multiple hats, I know I am, wife, minister, entrepreneur, you name it, I wear it, volunteer, the list goes on. I say find your filter and your flow. When you have joy and you have flow, you attract the money towards you. And of course, there's always going to be those little pieces that you rather not be doing. That's just kind of a par for the course. But for the most part, that shouldn't be the majority of the day. So you need to really separate what is most critical for you in your business. The critical things, if you think about a house on fire, the critical thing is that was the thing that started the fire because you didn't address it. So you left the stove on, and you didn't just leave it on, you left it on high. You plugged in an iron and tilted it on top of something. You knew that that was a critical thing that if you didn't address, the house was going to burn down. So I usually set aside, and I have this whole sheet, I probably should have had one prepared, just to show you what one of mine looks like from a day. It's a little sloppy, but just to be honest, this is my filter and flow sheet. And I have a critical side and an urgent and important side with a little note section at the bottom. So for me, I'll put 2 critical things on it for every single day that's a part of my week. It's a Monday through Sunday sheet because I do work a few hours on Sundays as well. So you only put your days of the week that you're working. And you say, what are the 1 to 2, just 1 or 2 critical things? You can't do everything. You can't hit every room in the house simultaneously to stop the fire. What are the 1 to 2 critical things that absolutely 100% have to be taken care of, or the house is going to burn down? That's your business. Something is going to catastrophically happen. Those 1 or 2 things should be strongly related to whatever your core money-making activities are. So if you are a speaker, that is a core activity. A critical thing for you might be if you are a speaker, or speaking is a huge core aspect of how you attract clients to make money for your business from a presentation style, then you need to make sure that you are following up with networks and associations, conferences, seminars, meeting planners, making sure you get interviewed on podcast or pod TV style shows. That is a core money-making activity for you because you know you attract the right client. That is a critical thing. That means that on whatever day you put that on, whatever else has to, be put aside, that particular follow-up function can't be lost because the house will be burned down. That's your critical 1 to 2 things a day on your critical sheet. Your urgent side, those are the things that if left attended for, let's say, a week, a few days, those things could become critical if you don't address them. So something that's urgent for you definitely needs to be taken care of. But if it happens to fall on Thursday of the week versus Monday, it's okay. It just needs to get done this week because it's a core part of what makes you flow a little bit better, right? It's the flow. Your filter is now separating those important things. So important things are what you need to make sure that you have all the tools you need to be able to handle the critical things. So something that's important but not critical because it's not going to make or break is, as a speaker, I have to make sure that I have a 1 sheet, a speaker sheet. I need to make sure that I have something that's on video or at least audio, some kind of reel for people to hear me if they say, well, I've never heard you before, you come highly recommended, but do you have something I can send? It's not going to make or break because the referral actually is what made me make the call because of that follow-up thing that I did at critical number 1. But it's important to make the process smoother for me to make sure that I have a speaker sheet or a 1 sheet or audio reel and so on and so forth. So it's critical, 1 to 2 things. Your urgent can be somewhere between 2 and 4 things, depending on the type of project week you had. And your important list should not be more than 2 or 3 things for that week. In my notes section that I had at the bottom of that filter and flow form, that particular part is kind of that brain dump part that's like, oh yeah, I need to make sure that I don't need to do that this week, but that's going to come up. So then I can reflect back week after week, like, oh, that note section now carried over and became important or maybe urgent. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So your mind is clear, and you can get to do what you need to do, and what is critical and what is important and what needs to be done in different times. If you have different time available.
Yeah.
So that's great. So what is the next thing you like to share with us?
So the third thing that I would do, especially if you are in business, and even if you're established in business, but especially if you're in some kind of mental transition. So many of us are rebranding, you're evolving, you're taking a pivot in your business, you're throwing out a division, adding a division, replacing projects, doing pilots. You know, we're always growing, innovating, and modifying, right? So it's really important to be mindful that you are not in this process alone unless you want to be. That is a major challenge that comes up for many of my prospects and my clients is they feel isolated, which kind of helps stimulate the identity crisis that goes on in their business over and over and over because they feel like they don't have anyone that they can trust to really expose the back end of their business to really just get help or get some eyes on it. So my rule is to build better together. Remember how I talked about being clear on your core outcomes versus the tools you use, kind of knowing what matters to you, what matters to your client, what you're really dynamic at doing versus what you're just really, really good at doing. Part of that is bringing other people in your circle to say, you know what, as good as I am at, let's just say, social selling, which is a very small part of what kind of goes into the plethora of things that I do, that's something I can refer to Bobby Fodish of All About Leverage because she is amazing and that is her lane. I can bring her as a part of my team, not necessarily just for rev share, which is an option, not just for JV, which is an option, but just to say, you know what, Bobby, you're amazing at this and I have clients who have this need. So maybe we can present together. So you can show your aspect, I can show mine, and of course we can show each other how it works together. So building better together is often not just a monetized way of earning money, although you can with affiliates and JV and rev shares and all that. For me, it's making things easy for the person that matters most, which is your client. So if I want you, Bashir, to share, let's say one of the micro masterminds we run in Manhattan, New York City, is called B3, Building Business Better, you know, for balance, right? Building business better. So if I want you to invite someone to B3, the easiest thing that I can do is not just say, hey, Bashir, when you think of it, if somebody comes up, can you send this? I can give you a template that basically has all the information you need in it to press forward on it if you want to leave it raw, or if you want to modify it because maybe you have a more informal or formal relationship with someone. But I just made your job easier to help support me. The same way I can help support you with sharing your amazing radio show and your podcast by saying not just like, oh yeah, I know some guy who has a great show. Let me go find that link. When am I really going to go find the link? But if you gave me the information, which you do, and say, here are some of the questions that I'm going to ask guests, this is the flow of how it's going to go, it makes it really easy to share to help you build. And obviously, by helping you, I'm helping me because you're a part of my network community, which is really important. So build better together and don't feel isolated. That's a major. If I had to move that to number one, that's exactly where I would put it.
Wow, that's amazing. So let me say we learned one first is identify your core values, what you offer to the clients. Second thing is create more hours in the day.
Yes.
And the third is maximize profit by minimizing efforts because you can refer you part of your business to somebody who is expert in that. You can get it done faster.
Yes.
And you make more money because your client will be happier and you get the repeat business.
Absolutely. And you'll get referrals from all those people that you, instead of trying to hog all the business to yourself and driving yourself crazy, doing a bunch of stuff you're not interested in, honestly, just because you know how to do it doesn't mean that you should be doing it, right? But now you have more referrals coming in because you've just created a street team. A street team of other professionals that are supporting around and connecting with your ideal client are saying, you know what, because Bashir keeps me top of mind, I'm automatically going to keep him top of mind. And the referrals are going without you spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, Google AdWords ads, or marketing. Like you really can do it by minimizing your effort if you're smart, if you hustle smarter.
Wow, Naketa, I'm full packed of the knowledge you have shared with us, and I hope our audience do it too. What are your immediate plans to grow your business?
So we are revamping our online programs. I've been an in-person girl for so long, and now it's time for us to expand to, take my own medicine and hustle smarter, not just harder. And we realized that we were doing a big disservice to a lot of entrepreneurs or people who are in business who are in transition with kind of that identity crisis, with not offering enough options online. So we're adding a whole nother stream to really expand our online offerings, starting with providing clients, prospects, and people that they invest with their time by listening in to your awesome show, to our Balance Boldly podcast that'll be coming out this fall. We want to invest in our community a little bit deeper by offering them a group private community that's free for them. So that's what we're going to be doing, which is the link that I gave you when we get to that a little bit later, is the Some of Me private coaching community. We're offering that to people who invest in us by just sharing their time with us.
Someone who's watching right now, how can they help you?
I would say the best way to connect with me, honestly, to have a conversation is, especially on a professional level, is to definitely meet me at LinkedIn. Just go to my LinkedIn profile, which is my name, Naketa Thigpen, and obviously make sure that I know who you are, because I don't LinkedIn with anyone. So you have to say that I met you through Bashir. Like, they have to say that, or else I'm going to ignore them or send them a nasty message and say, I don't know who you are. No. But it really is important for them to give a context of where we met, and we can just have a conversation. If they just want to build relationship with me to learn a little bit more, I would definitely say to head over to thigpro.com/me time. And that is the Some of Me community that literally is starting like any second. And it's going to be some really amazing things that are there just for community members. We already have 1,000 members that are grandfathered in from our previous program that we had. And if you want to be a part of that, to learn what's happening on a regular basis, to talk with me on Twitter, to join eClarity clinics, to gain more focus around your business, that's the best way to do it.
What would you say as a final word?
My final word, that I would say is honestly, find your filter and your flow. That is the most important thing that you can do, is really find what works for you and not be apologetic around things that used to work or people knew you for yesterday. They knew me as an amazing clinician 5 years ago. Now they know me as an amazing entrepreneur. And in fact, an entrepreneur who's been forthright about failing forward in many different aspects of business and in life to perfect what I'm doing and help other people avoid the mistake. But they wouldn't know that if I just said, no, I'm too afraid to say what I really want to do now, because you keep allowing your former story to fuel you when it's really just making you stagnant. You're growing, and you should accept that. Like, I'm growing, and I'm a very different person today than I was even 6 months ago. Praise God, because I'm growing. So accept it and be really unapologetic about that, and you'll be profitable in every area of your life.
Thank you, Naketa, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Entrepreneur Empowerment Club. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate, and I'm honored that you welcomed me. Thank you, Bashir.
This is Bashir. Wish you good luck, and I do hope our paths cross again on our next interview at Entrepreneur Empowerment Club. All good wishes.